In the second book is the concept of timelines that exist within the Ankh polarity model. Is this a true representation?
Yes, these are constructs within constructs that exist on this planet and many other planets and within galaxies within the universal consciousness. What's the question?
The next question is, the timelines are shown resolving as the constructs merge and ascend towards sixth density. Explain how this is possible while allowing Todd to the visualization so that the concept can be captured.
This is, okay, so in this concept we're talking about the fractalization of timelines, of constructs, collective, co-creational constructs that have the appearance of a linear progression of time. These fractals occur as consciousnesses in the collective decide upon differing pathways. They begin to co-create realities that are not conducive to each other, and they create a fractalization, and one pops off of the other, and the collective begins a new creation, and the other collective continues along its pathway. And in the polarity of this galaxy, this is usually associated with polarization of consciousness, because the two are not conducive to each other. So if there's an overly positive collective, the overly positive collective is going to branch off and create its own more positive construct as the more negative construct continues along its pathway of negativity. A very clear division occurred in your areas of World War II. There are several variations of how that conflict ended that are on this planet at this time. As these constructs, we're looking, so we're still looking at the polarity model, and he has all of this correct. He was trying to figure it out in his mind how they would resolve, but the fractalization of them occurs like a tree that is seeking the energy of the sun. The branches branch off, and more occur as they try to reach towards the energetics of the sun so that they can continue to grow and multiply. This is the same with the constructs of consciousness within a developing sphere. We're looking at the Earth construct, and there's many of them. Now, these all have to resolve as the consciousnesses on the planet reach the collective. At some point, the collective becomes an energetic construct that starts pushing back upon the membrane within the galactics, and it becomes an energy producer. And this is where the balance within the galaxy becomes a factor in offsetting quadrants. If the other consciousnesses have not come online and are not offsetting the energy that is starting to push against the membrane, and this is all in the first book, and it starts to cause an imbalance that needs to be corrected or offset. And this occurs through holding back or pushing forward of the offsetting quadrants. So here we go. As all of these constructs, these material constructs that are in play on a planet begin to resolve themselves, because the consciousness has reached, the collective consciousness has reached a saturation level, and it needs to be, material creations need to end on the planet because the collective has reached saturation. The planet begins to cease being conducive to life, and these timelines begin to resolve themselves. No new consciousness is created on the planet, and the lower life forms begin to ascend into their densities and move forward into the collective. As this occurs, these timelines have to merge, because there will be less and less of lower density consciousnesses that can support the higher densities of consciousness. So a timeline, a construct of collectives that are close in energetics. Positive timelines will merge to positive timelines. Negative timelines will merge to negative timelines. And then these will all start to seek the balance of unity consciousness as they get towards the center, towards sixth density, where they will all ascend into the collective and there will no longer be any life upon the planet. So the next question is, how does this appear to the consciousnesses that are on the planet? Now, the problem that Todd has been having is he had this session with a client who said that he is in another construct as Todd, this incarnation of Todd. That is not the case. This client was talking about another fractalization of this consciousness that happens to be in a different construct. You have to understand that there is this consciousness that is Todd and the consciousness that is Allison are engaged in an embodiment and are engaged in an experiential pathway. There is not a same Todd somewhere doing the exact same thing in a different construct where the man in the high castle concept has been in play. He's not there. Okay, you're here, you're not there. So as these timelines merge, these different constructs have different co-creational collective consciousnesses in them, and these constructs are very, very similar. And as they merge, the consciousnesses that are merging into these constructs find differences between the two constructs. They're very, very minor. This is the Mandela Effect that everyone talks about. Why is this different? Why is that different? Some of this is just incorrect memories that, you remember one thing incorrectly and then someone else points it out and you're, oh, wait, that's changed. Some of that is that. But there are minor differences that are occurring as these constructs are merging, as we are moving towards the ending of incarnations on this planet, which is not going to be for a very, very, very long time. So any concerns on that can be put to rest. That's not going to occur. However, it is time for some of these constructs to start to merge and reconcile. And this is what is occurring as these branches that broke off and multiplied while they were seeking energetics are now starting to reconcile, because the tree is at the point where it is mature and the branches need to reconcile so that they can return back to the trunk and move forward as a growing organism. Next question.
I believe you just answered this one. But if the same physical vehicle is embodied in both, then how do the two fragments resolve and move forward?
That is not occurring. There is not another Todd in a different construct. There will be a fragment of this person, but it will not be this person, and this person is not. So let's play that forward just a little bit. The client said that Todd was the brother of the client in a different construct. This is fractalization that's occurring, understanding that we are all universal consciousness and that we all have been given individualities. And, ascended consciousness is fragmenting to come back and play within the games, which makes it a more complicated concept. But let's keep it simple. We are all universal consciousness that has been given individuality through barrier membranes that allow us to create experiential pathways that give us individualized perspectives. And this is why we see ourselves as separate. But it's not the case, obviously, and once we reach a collective, that all becomes very apparent. So this consciousness that was the client has a fractalized perspective of another embodiment in another construct that is not the same person, who saw Todd, another fractalization of Todd, as a brother in this other construct who is not Todd. So let's just go with, the client was Jane Doe and Todd is Todd in this one, and in the next construct where she sees him as her brother, her name is Samantha and he is John. And they don't look alike. They are not from the same parents. They're not even born in the same location. However, they see themselves as brother and sister, and they're seeking similar paths. This is the concept. And when these timelines merge, these people are not going to know themselves as each other. They're just going to merge back into these timelines. Now, when they bump into each other, if they are fragments of each other, and they are fragments of ascended consciousness, when they bump into each other, the effects cannot be anticipated. Telepathy, higher consciousness discussions, energy manifestations. There's no telling what will happen when fragments bump into each other in incarnated experience. And that's the twin ray concept that we previously spoke of. And this is going to occur and continue to occur in more frequency and rapidity as the timelines continue to merge, as we continue to seek our path towards unity and sixth density and collective consciousness and not embody anymore. Did we answer that question?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, next question.
People are discussing the feeling of shifting timelines. How does this relate to the questions just asked?
Well, I think that meshes very well with what we just said, is the fact that the timelines are merging. Now, the concept where people are yelling, "Oh, I just felt a timeline shift. Did you feel?" It's not occurring as rapidly as you would expect if you were believing everybody that says that. The timeline shift, it's very subtle, and we are moving into a more conducive timeline. And everyone wants to say we're on a positive timeline, we're on a negative timeline. And let's explore that for just a minute, because, as we said, you have to reach the balance line. You have to reach unity to move into sixth density. And if you're in a material construct, Todd is asking questions about where material embodiment ends and you ascend into the collective and you no longer need a body because that's at fifth density. But let's just ignore that for right now, because this is a complicated enough concept and we don't need to throw that in there. Let's assume that you are in an overly positive construct. Everybody has their heart just out in the open above in their chest, and they're just sharing their love completely. At some point, this construct, timeline construct, is going to have to move back towards balance to ascend. And therefore, this super positive, overly positive construct is going to have to move by perception towards the negative, which is not the case at all. It's towards balance and unity. It does not mean that, horrible things have to start to occur in this wonderfully positive timeline. What it means is that people begin to understand balance. They begin to understand unity, and they begin to understand the relationship between positive and negative polarities, and they no longer need either one of them as they dispense and they move into logic and reason. And this is the Spock correlation with the Star Trek, that Spock had no emotions and he was just totally logic. That is an exaggeration, but it is the concept of balance. You understand everything. You understand the concepts of love and unity, and you understand the concepts of division and hatred, and you see them both from a balanced perspective. And in that regard, neither one is good and neither one is bad. They're experiences, and you're moving forward beyond them. I no longer need those. I think we answered the question.